Het-Heru, namaste. This is Kasakma Keperu with another broadcast for you. Today's broadcast is going to be on Me Too and how to summon your power. And I just had some raw garlic, and man, that stuff is powerful. It's like my mouth is on fire, and oh, ooh, it's good and healthy for you, but it's like, whoa, you know, hold on one second. Woo! You know, don't try this at home, folks. This is for professionals, you know. It's like, unfortunately, staying healthy can be expensive, you know. So just in case you guys don't know, I got 3 monitors here, and I'm always looking at all 3 because things are popping up every now and then. So I'm trying to be vigilant and monitor all 3. And I have a lot of my friends, they have their own YouTube channels. So they broadcast during the same time that I broadcast. So I try to just keep up to speed on what's going on their channels as well. But I want to talk about what's going on with this whole Me Too campaign and this whole thing on sexual harassment and things of that nature. And because we're living in strange times. What is that? A Chinese proverb is like, may you live in interesting times. And we certainly do. And then I think the Klingons say, you know, may you die with honor. May you die in battle, you know. We see that there's a lot going on in our world today, and it's very interesting. But let me just say this so that we all put things in context. It's your reality that you are creating, and that the things that are going on because you as the co-creator are creating an experience to interact with. So I'm aware of this. So when I get up and I see things that are transpiring, I know that they're transpiring because based on a belief system that I have. These are not objective realities that are isolated incidences apart from myself, because we know through Ma'at that truth is relational. Everything has to be seen in context, and everything is related. So we have to see that the reality that is before you is in relation to you as God man, God woman. It is only through Western scientists who think out of the left brain that they think in a compartmentalized way, and they think segregatively or separatively that everything is not related, all right? So keep that in mind. It's very important to understand that concept, because it brings us back to a fuller understanding of what reality is about. And several years ago, and this is going to tie right into the Me Too movement, if you're not really aware of that, there's this campaign which is a hashtag Me Too, which is talking about if you've been sexually harassed, hashtag Me Too, I guess. And there is this laundry list of I guess, senators and producers and actors who are being accused, but it's not proven, of sexual harassment or inappropriate behavior, mostly men. So they're asking women who are victims of this to come out and you know, cite their stories, even though it may be 9, 10, 20 years ago, you know. So, you know, it was interesting. Several years ago, I was speaking on the West Coast, and they invited me down there to speak. And they put me up at this really nice hotel, and it was great. And so I was going to go for it was a big dinner, and then I would speak, big dinner, and then after that they were having some type of dancing and things of that nature. So, you know, I had met this young woman who, you know, they hook you up with like a liaison, and she was supposed to like show me where to go, where to sit and everything. So she was like my chaperone, right? So anyway, which was cool. But I noticed she was very excited to meet me, and I guess she knew my credentials and everything like that. So she had asked, because she was a volunteer, if she could come to my hotel room and shower. So I didn't think anything of it. She needed a place to shower. So I was like, yeah, okay, sure. So she came to my hotel room and she was showering. And at that time, I was working on my laptop and I was writing a scene from one of my screenplays, you know. And she came out of the shower and I wasn't even paying attention. I was just busy writing. And she walked over toward me. She leaned over and she said, "What are you writing?" I said, "Oh, this is a scene from my screenplay." So I looked over my right shoulder and she was literally standing there totally naked. I mean, naked from head to toe. And she had like this big bush down by her vagina. I think she needed a lawnmower. She needed to cut that down a bit. Hygiene is important. And I was in just shock, not knowing like what the hell. So I had reached out and grabbed her hand, and she withdrew her hand and said, and she just kind of went off in this tantrum, and she was just like, "I don't know what guys always hitting on me. Why do guys hit on me? You know, how dare you hit on me," and all that. And I was like, "Excuse me?" I said, "Listen, you need to get your things and get out," you know? So after that, I ran into her a couple of times, and I was a little shaky and nervous about it because she at that point, I thought she was not stable. And we then went out, she showed me around town. We went to a couple of clubs and a couple of bars and stuff. And then we went and met back up with a group of people, other speakers, to have drinks and introduce ourselves. And then at that point, I think I went back to my hotel room. And I think it was about 3 in the morning, I heard a knock at the door, and I knew it was her, and I wasn't going to answer the door. And then I started to think, is this girl going to be stalking me the entire trip? You know, and it made me nervous because I was saying, well, what if I was really thinking at that point of calling the police or like calling hotel management. But I said, what if she flips the script and say I was like making advances on her or like, you know, stalking her. So I just left it alone. So the next day, you know, I was hooking up with a date with this Irish girl. And at that time, for some strange reason, I was dating a lot of Irish girls. So I really liked her and we were having dinner, and then we had dinner and then we went to dancing. And while we finished dancing, and then I remember we were standing in the corner and her and I were talking, and then I hear this voice starts yelling, "What are you doing with my man? How dare you be there with my man?" And I look and here comes this girl, and it was shocking because this was a private area and she shouldn't have been there. And she comes walking up and saying all of this stuff about I'm her man. And I'm like, I look at the Irish girl and I'm like, this girl is crazy. I don't know what the hell's wrong with her. But anyway, you know, and then, long story short, I go back to my hotel. And at this point, the trip is not good because this woman literally just messed the entire trip. I'm nervous. I'm not comfortable because I think that every time I turn around, she'll be there. So again, last night there, I hear a knock at the door. It's her again. I'm not answering the door. And I'm really on the verge of just calling the police. And, you know, and I'm like, no, let me not do that because, again, she could flip the script. So I fly back home. And to make matters worse, she starts calling me on my cell phone. I mean, repeatedly. I mean, one time I was having dinner with friends and she was calling me. We were at the restaurant, and then, you know, she starts calling me and she's like, "Hey, just want to know how you're doing. Hey, are you gonna put me in your movie?" You know, so I just like, I didn't know what she was up to. And I finally just like, look, you got to stop calling me. I don't know what is your problem, you know? So my point in telling you this story is like, when you see these things about the media, and the media is trying to paint these pictures about, the media always has this objective, right? And they're always backed by special interest groups. And these special interest groups are supported by think tank organizations. And their goal is to plan out these things 10 years in advance because they want to basically determine where culture will go, where politics will go, and they want to control the minds of the population. So when you're seeing things like these, suddenly, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, all of these senators or actors or studio heads are being accused of inappropriate behavior, this is not something that just comes out of the woodwork, out of nowhere. You know, this was pre-planned and organized. Because let me tell you something. If they're really looking to do justice, and fight inappropriate behavior, then men are subject to as much harassment as women are. But yet it tends to focus only on women and the feminist agenda. Now, I want you to understand something, so you have to get to the heart of this whole matter. Hold on one second. When I talk to these things, when I talk about these things, people are like, oh, you're against this. Oh, you're for this. Oh, you're against this. I don't play that game because I'm always looking for the puppet master. When I'm telling you that you got to pull that curtain back and see the Wizard of Oz, I'm serious, because I'm not for like, oh, I'm for truth. I'm not for the black issue, the white issue, the feminist issue, the male issue. I'm not for the Democrat, the Republican. You know, I'm not for Hillary. I'm not for Trump, because you know what? Those are losing sides. That's the Hegelian dialectic that's being polarized on one end of the spectrum. That's what the left brain is famous for doing. Because while you're taking the side, there is a dark menace behind the scenes laughing and seeing the two sides fighting. And I've told many people this. Like, I will argue, for example, I said to people in the LGBT community, I said, the Illuminati doesn't care about you. They only want to use your cause, but they don't care because they just, you know, many people have a selfish interest. You know what I mean? So what they will do is they'll give some resources to one side and give more resources to another side and watch the two resources fight each other and laugh. And then when you try to tell the two sides, look up, there's somebody pulling the strings. They're too greedy and hoarding what little they have to realize that they're being played. And I say this all the time. So you may have these feminist groups who really want justice, and there's nothing wrong with justice. But when I say that, you know, men are actually, you know, victims too, but I want you to understand that you're being played because somebody is up there who is orchestrating this whole thing for a particular reason, you know, and you need to find out where all of a sudden this stuff is coming from. But they don't want to look at that. They just looking at what they're looking at is the short-term advantage that they're gaining right now, which is only a short-term advantage because in the end, the hidden hand will reveal its cards. And then they'll realize they screwed themselves. Do you understand? You have a bunch of people out there going, yay, Trump, yay, Hillary. It didn't matter who won. The ruling elite, the oligarchy, was the one pulling the strings all along. So you could have voted for any one of them. People are like, oh, we should have had Hillary. You know, Hillary would have done this. No, Hillary wouldn't. There still would have been a war. We still would have looked at North Korea as the enemy. You know, everything still would have played out the same way because they have an agenda, and that agenda has been planned out 10 years in advance. You think this whole thing with this Me Too movement and all of these people, you know, who are well-known, powerful men being accused of inappropriate behavior wasn't planned in advance? There are powerful people behind this who have had this information on these men for a long time. And now they're enacting their plan. This is how it works. And Bill Cosby was just one, the launch pad for all of this. So what I'm saying is, you know, when I try to tell people, and they're like, "Oh, Ron, you just, you know, yeah, you just for this and you just for that," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." You know, there was a movie years ago. With Matthew Broderick. It was a great movie. It was in the '80s. It was called War Games. All right, and this best exemplifies my view and where I stand. And they created this algorithm where the computer could play a war game with the United States against the Soviet Union. And the goal was to see who would win. So they told the computer to play the game and tell us who would win. The computer played this game, and I think it took it no longer than maybe 3 minutes. And the computer stopped, and basically we're like, well, who would win? And the computer said, listen, the best move in this thing is not to play. And that's the thing that you have to do. You've got to look at what's going on. We got the pipe bombing in New York, the World Trade Center thing. You've got the attack at the Mandalay Hotel in Vegas. You've got the attack at the Pentagon. You've got all of this stuff going on, which is just distractions, playing you, creating fear, creating distractions. The only right move that you can do is not to play into all of this, not to play this game. Because these guys are a very clever Sebek Anubises. Anubis is the jackal head, the Egyptian god Anubis, and he is known for being clever, left brain clever. He's known also as the trickster, tricking you. You're not going to outsmart him. It's not going to happen. So the only thing that you can do is not play into the game, not play into this. And another thing that they're doing is they're creating these names and definitions, LGBT, Me Too, feminists, gender equality, no gender. This stuff is going to go on and on, because if they can create more division, then they create a population that's not united. And when you have a population that's not united, then you can take them over. That's exactly what they did to the continent of Africa. They saw that Africa was already separated by language. So they went in there and they created something called race. And they said the Tutus are separated from the Bantus, and you guys are more superior than the Bantus, and you South Africans are more superior to the Ethiopians, and that created wars, civil wars for years based on that hierarchy of race. And they're doing the same thing here. They're creating definitions, and they're getting you to respond to those definitions. Do you understand? And they're creating these words that have no power, have no legitimacy to them. Now they're trying to tell you that gender is a concept. What the hell? And they want you to respond to that. So, and then they're going to split more hairs. Well, now there's 102 genders. And then somebody says, well, Ron, are you against that? I'm like, no, it's not about being against that. Well, Steve here's for that. I'm like, I don't care if Steve here's for it, Bill here's against it. I don't care. I'm not playing into all of it. I'm stepping away. You see, if you say I'm a Democrat, if you say I'm a Republican, you have fallen into their frame. And then that sets you up for you versus them. And that sets you up for the whole idea of good and evil. Because that's how it has to be, according to the Hegelian dialectic. Because the left brain can't understand that you can have two concepts that may be contradictory, but complementary, and still live with those and still have them work cooperatively. The left brain can't deal with that. Only the right brain can deal with that. But Kasak, are you saying that there are no bad people in the world, and that there are some causes that aren't like life affirming? And I'm like, yeah, there is truth in the world, and that there are people who are evil. That's true. But what I'm saying right now is that you are dealing with a cabal that are master manipulators, and that if you're not careful, you will fall into their plan of divide and conquer. So you have to be very careful where you step. And again, like the computer and the algorithm, the best option is not to play the game, not to play into it. So when they talk about things like, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican, Kazak? I'm like, no, I choose not to play that game. I choose to step away from that because I understand that labels and definitions are just stand-ins for reality, but they don't represent the reality themselves. They're merely symbols of a belief system that I myself project to create a reality to experience fourth dimension, but they are not the reality themselves. Well, Kazank, are you saying that there is no such thing as a race? So are you saying that there's no black race, there's no Asian race, there's no Hispanic race, there's no Mexican race? I said, yes, there are those races, but who you are, the true essence of who you are is consciousness. And you have no beginning, no end, and that you are eternal. You shall never die. You live for billions and billions of years. You have no ending. You have no beginning. How do you say that? I don't understand that. How can you be mortal and immortal? Ah, well, there. Well, stop thinking out your left brain, you know, and then you can reconcile those opposites. So what I'm telling you is that, listen, we're in tough times right now, and they are using the media to manipulate us into subscribing to the ideology. You know, when I went to college, right, it was a very shocking experience for me because I'll tell you why. It was one of the first times I really dated. And when I went to college, what I found out was, because when I was in high school, I was an avid science fiction fan. I watched a lot of TV and movies. So my world was about mass media. So when I went to university, I was open to a new world. I was open to the reality of the world. And I saw that it was nothing like the media portrayed. I was meeting people, and people weren't as racist as the media portrayed. Dating wasn't what it was like in the media. And I had been lied to. I had been point blank lied to in the most horrific way. And it took a lot for me to change. I had to take a 180-degree turn and say, wow, everything I've been told is a lie. And a lot of people have a hard time dealing with that when they start to realize that the world is not what it pretends to be. Now, what the ruling elite really is trying to do is trying to plant a seed, do a media manipulation. They know that you are reality generating machines. So they know if they can convince you of certain things, that you will project and create that fourth dimensional experience, or that you will vibrate to a parallel reality where that is real. That's why you can't pay attention to that. You cannot subscribe to those ideas that they're pumping out there. You don't want to create that reality. So here's what you have to do. You have to summon your own power. You have to make sure that you're creating your own world. And one of the things is you have to unplug from mass media. You've got to stop listening and stop watching the media because they're pumping out garbage. They're blatantly lying to you. And it is a shame that the media is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is investigative reporting. They're just telling you what the elite is telling them to tell you. Because it's all a bunch of lies. They're behind the bombings. They're behind all of this stuff. And if a reporter really were to investigate this stuff, the reporter would never be seen again. That's why there's no real investigative reporting. Because they've yet to do any real investigations into 9/11. Independent investigations, you know. Not sanctioned by Washington. So here's what you need to do. You need to unplug from the matrix. Stop reading the newspapers. Get away from all that media stuff because it's going to harm you. The vibrations that are being pumped out from the TV are detrimental to you because what they are doing, and they have done studies on this, the American media is fear-based. It pumps out fear, 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 more so than the media in Europe. Now, with that in mind, You need to be meditating at least 30 minutes every day. And you need to be meditating on the world that you want to be in. You want to meditate on the world that you want. Now, there's only two ways to do this. That's the first way. The second way is, now this is more if you're going through an extreme case. Let's say you've got a lot of things going on in your life. Maybe you're breaking up in a relationship. Maybe there's a death in the family. There is what we call is Amen, the state of peace. This is a state, a fallback state, and a healing state. And it's a very wonderful, peaceful state, but not a very easy state for novices to get into. Now, this is happening. Let's say, for example, you're in a job and the job is just tough, long hours, people are yelling at you, and you just have to work that job and there's no way around it. Well, you can withdraw your consciousness into that state of Amen, that state of peace where you become centered. And even though the outside world is crumbling down around you, you can be in that center of peace. Imagine being in like the zombie apocalypse or the Walking Dead. And everywhere you turn, there's nothing but despair. But within you, you can be like I-Ching, you know. I may be dating myself, but you guys remember that old TV show Kung Fu, where he would wander through the desert and he would always be centered in that peace. And people were like, wow, you walk miles through the desert? How did you do that without water? So there is that inner state of peace that you can achieve when things in your life are falling apart. And I did a video on how to do this. If you can find that video, I recommend you go watch that, because it's a beautiful state to be in, and it will get you through a lot, you know, especially if you're going through a hard breakup, financial situation, or you're going through a terrible experience at work or death in the family. It can really help you. All right, so with all this craziness going on with bombs, explosions, gunmen shooting people up, you need to be centered, because sometimes you can't move. You can't go anywhere. It's all, you know, anyway, no matter where you move, it's still going to be there, you know. I was thinking, hey, you know what? If I just move to this state, everything will be all right. And then some gunman shows up in that state and kills people in a church. I'm like, wow, there's nowhere you can go, you know. So find that video. Let's go back to the first thing I was talking about, which is going into your meditation and visualizing a world where things are going your way, where everything aligns to bring you a fortuitous day, or fortune favors you. And this is something you will continue to do on a daily basis. And there's no stop period, meaning that you're not going to do this for 30 days and stop. This is something you're going to do every day. And what this is going to do, it's going to improve the quality of your life, and it's going to improve your health, so that the stresses that are going on and the energy frequencies that the media is pumping out through television and radio and all of that is not going to harm you. It's not going to stress you out, because you are creating a vibrational state that's going to shift you through to a parallel universe that is going to create some peace in your life. You know, it may not change radically everything, but it will decrease what you will experience in terms of the terrorist attacks, the guns out there, shootings and all that. It will decrease that, so you can have some measure of peace. Because this is ridiculous that we are experiencing this in this day and age, you know. But this is okay, because we've all made an agreement to experience this so that we can ascend and transcend, you know. This is what we're here for, to become God men, God women, you know what I mean? So I want you to understand these principles of, number one, not subscribing or not playing the game, you know, not subscribing to the erroneous definitions and titles and names, so they can get you playing the game or being a pawn in their game. I want you to start thinking about unplugging from the matrix and meditating and creating your world. I want you to watch my video on, you know, centering yourself, amid the greatest obstructions that are going on around you and despair, so you can be at peace. So that's it, and I think that's some very powerful stuff I've given you. Also, I want to tell you about this Sunday we're having a Ma'at ritual meditation. If you can make it, that will be awesome. It's going to be at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There is a link down below for you to register. The event is free, so I hope you can make it. It's going to be awesome. If you're looking for love and wealth, that's what the meditation is going to focus on. So it's 2 p.m. this Sunday. So click the link below to register. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this video so we can get the information out to family and friends and start the revolution. Until my next broadcast, this is Kasak Ma Keparu, and Amun Ra.